Good morning. My name is John Henry Clay, and this is the final exam for my Music and Society course. And for this exam, we'll be comparing two sets of two different songs. And the first song that I'll be beginning with is Igor Stravinsky's The Rite of Spring. So, beginning with the composition dates of the song and the location of where it was written, this was written in 1911 through 1913, primarily in Clarens, Switzerland, and Ustileg, Ukraine. The ballet was finished in 1913 before its premiere in May of 1913 at the Champs-Élysées Paris Theater. The societal context of Igor Stravinsky's Rite of Spring is that this piece was truly a revolutionary work that challenged the audience with its raw, primitive rhythms and dissonance depicting a pagan ritual of sacrifice, and this piece really relied on Russian and Estonian folktales for its inspiration. Its modernistic approach to music and dance, coupled with the depiction of a brutal ritual, actually caused a riot at its premiere, marking a significant moment in the history of art and modernism. The musical language and how it's constructed, how I might describe in this piece, is that Stravinsky constructs the music through a combination of folk-inspired melodies, unconventional rhythms, and innovative orchestration. He uses a large orchestra, often pushing instruments to their extremes, and incorporates techniques like polytonality and polyrhythms to create a dissonant and energetic soundscape. Stravinsky utilized a large orchestra, often with doubled sections of instruments like oboes and bassoons, and I would describe the music as intense, energetic, and exciting. It doesn't sound like the typical orchestra piece in the sense that it sounds darker, more intense than other pieces that I've listened to. The musical significance of this piece and how it might be considered innovative is for many reasons. Stravinsky really shook up Western music with his wild, uneven rhythms that constantly changed. His scores mixes complex rhythms and unexpected beats, moving away from the steady, familiar patterns of classical music. The harmonies were bold and jarring for the time, with clashing chords and multiple keys played at once. This broke from traditional music rules and stretched the idea of really what Western music could be. The impact this piece had on me is really ended up being my favorite orchestral piece from this semester. I really enjoyed the intensity and the visuals of the piece. And I thought it was interesting how he relied on folk tales for this piece. So the next piece that I will be talking about in this set is Verdi Pace Pace Mio Dio from La Forza del Destino. La Forza del Destino was composed in 1861 and 1862, with Pace Pace Mio Dio being part of the score completed during this period. The opera premiered on November 10th, 1862, and Verdi composed the opera primarily in Santa Agata, Italy, his country estate, though he also worked on it in St. Petersburg, Russia, where the opera was actually commissioned at the Imperial Theater. And Verdi also traveled to Russia to oversee rehearsals and made revisions there. The societal context of this piece was that the 1860s were a pivotal time for Italy in the sense that the country was undergoing unification, which was completed in 1861. And Verdi's music was really, in this piece in particular, was a symbol of Italian nationalism, and his operas often carried very patriotic undertones. And the way this music is constructed, or how I might describe it, is that the aria is constructed as a lyrical solo with an orchestral introduction, a main section, and a brief, intense concluding passage. It follows a loose structure typical of Verdi, and the tempo is slow and deliberate, but with a steady pulse. The orchestra is restrained with a prominent clarinet solo in the introduction, setting a sort of mournful tone throughout the rest of the piece. The musical significance of this piece is that it really exemplifies Verdi's ability to create psychologically complex characters, and in particular, the Leonora area is a study of despair and resilience, and it added to the depth or in the portrayal of operatic women, who were typically stereotyped as either virtuous or villainous, and this sort of really changed that narrative. So moving on to the first song of the next set, I will be discussing Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star from Puzzles and Games by Eun-Suk Chin. And this is probably the most creative piece of both sets. So this piece is from Alice in Wonderland, which was composed in 2017 with an ensemble version arranged in 2019. This piece is a standalone work derived from, like mentioned before, her opera Alice in Wonderland, which was in 2004-2007. Which includes a reimagined version of Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star as part of its libretto and score. The opera premiered in 2017 at the National Theater in Munich, but Puzzles and Games was created as a separate concert piece much later. The societal context of this piece is that Chin's Puzzle and Games and its source, opera and Alice in Wonderland, engage with themes of imagination, absurdity, and intellectual play, reflecting really both the timeless and contemporary societal concerns of this piece. It really pushes the boundaries. The musical language of this is sort of hard to describe, but it's very innovative. So Chin is renowned for vivid orchestration, drawing on influences like Ligeti, Stravinsky, and Bartok. This piece features a unique combination with instruments like flutes, clarinets, percussions, and strings, creating a very whimsical but intricate soundscape throughout, which can be seen in the opera's orchestration. So the musical significance of this piece is that it's really just a truly innovative piece, very creative. She was able to bridge popular culture and high art and sort of inviting other listeners that typically wouldn't have listened to this sort of stuff to this genre. And it was a very, very interesting piece to listen to. I'd highly recommend. And then moving on to the last and final piece of music from this set is Astor Piazzolla's Milonga de Angel. Astor Piazzolla was an Argentine composer and bandoneon virtuoso, and he likely composed Milonga de Angel in Buenos Aires in the early 1960s, which is a very prolific period for his Nuevo Tango innovations. The Angel series was partly inspired by a 1962 play, which he had part in, Tango de Angel, which Piazza actually composed earlier theme pieces for that. The societal context of this piece is that in the early 1960s, Argentina was navigating a lot of political instability, military coups, cultural shifts, that sorts of stuff. And the traditional tango, which was once a cultural cornerstone of Argentina, was declining in popularity, overshadowed by the growing rock and roll and folk music. Piazzolla's Nueva Tango, including Milonga de Angel, revitalized the genre by blending tango with jazz and classical elements, but it did spark a lot of controversy among the traditionalists in Argentina, who thought it was sort of a diss on the traditions of Argentine music. So the musical language and how the music constructed, how I might describe it, is as a quintet composition of bandoneon, violin, piano, electric guitar, and double bass rooted in the milonga, which is a precursor to tango with a slower, more expressive rhythm. The music is very soulful, melancholic, and evocative. It's really blending the passion of tango with the sophistication of classical music and jazz, which is very interesting and soothing to listen to. And what's sort of innovative about this piece, and what does it add, is that Piazzolla's integration of jazz, improvisation, classical counterpoint, tango rhythms was really groundbreaking for the time. The improvisational freedom he gave to the quintet members is very unusual in traditional tango, and it very much parallels jazz music's spontaneous ability, where they could just pick up and start going where they want. So that was very innovative for him at the time, and that's what I would say it added to music in general. So to conclude, the impact these pieces had on me would be that I really need to start expanding my genres of music, and that's something I've really taken away from this semester in class. I've been exposed to so many different new kinds of music and songs and orchestral pieces, and many of them I really enjoyed. So I think what I would take from this assignment and these pieces in general is that I need to expand the music I listen to, try new things, and I'll probably be surprised by what I enjoy. So thank you for listening and viewing this, and have a good day.